Grief is such an overpowering emotion, especially after losing someone so close to you. It can take months, years, even decades to get back to normal, if that's even possible after experiencing a significant loss. This podcast was created to help you move through and release the emotions, allowing you to heal the hurt and begin living again. Listen in as I chat with medical professionals, grief workers, and people who have first-hand experience in losing a loved one, what their experience has been, and what they did to help heal themselves and those around them. Life isn't always sunshine and rainbows, but I believe there is always a silver lining if you're willing to look. Welcome to the Release Podcast. Welcome to another episode of Release Grief Podcast. Today I am here with the gorgeous Angie. I'm going to butcher your last name, so I'm not even going to try.
Good call.
And she had to remind me of when we met, so I go to a lot of conferences. I attend a lot of events because I'm big in the mental health space, not in the mental health space, but like armoring yourself mentally to battle, like whether it's your business, grief, love, relationships, communication, children, whatever it is. I'm into a lot of things. And so she had to remind me of which conference I was at that she had met me at, and in my prior life, because she's like, Faith, what exactly do you do? And I'm like, well, I help women with grief, specifically the anger and the frustration that's associated with it. And she's like, yeah, you didn't do that. You weren't doing that then. Like,
No,
no, I wasn't. So welcome, Angie. Thank you so much for being on here, and a completely different like business that I'm doing.
I love this. Yeah, it's awesome. Has an interesting way of funneling you into the next phase of life. So yeah,
It
it's very
does.
good to be here with you in this space.
Oh, thank you. I think it's been very freeing for me. Like a lot of people are like, "Well, Faith, why are you talking about grief? Like that's such a dark topic." I'm like, but it doesn't have to be. And we deal with it all the time. Why not talk about it? Why not push it out there? Why not make it a common dinner table topic?
Hmm.
Like I feel like families just need to have more real life as opposed to less Instagram filtered life. And to have the hard conversations. So, but this podcast is not about me. This is about you. So, tell me about why you decided to come on to the grief podcast.
Well, I was just telling you right before we hopped on here. I have a dream that this becomes common knowledge in every home and every school. I was a first grade teacher for a long time, and I say 100% of us learned about what a parallelogram was, but 0% of us learned what grief is.
Yeah.
And 100% of us will go through grief in our life. And I have no made up statistic as to the amount of us that have to use a parallelogram, but I'm sure it's a lot smaller than that,
I can
and
honestly say I've not used one
I
since first
never have
grade.
in my adult life. But, there are a lot of things that we learn or we're taught and we we grasp those concepts, but then there are things that I feel are so foundational, like even something as little as losing a goldfish, our parents are
Yeah.
like, flush it down the toilet, it's done. And it's like, but wait, I have feels about this, and it's like,
Right.
shake it off, tiger. And so when I saw that your podcast was released, well, first, I love you as a person. And then B, I'm like, let's get this work out to more humans. Like the idea of having tools to release when life feels messy is
Mhm.
probably one of the most important things we could ever learn in our whole lives. So I love what you're doing. I love this work.
Oh, thank you. That ties in perfectly with so I also designed a program for, I talked about it earlier at the beginning, for women that are going through the anger phases. Like you lose a child, you lose a loved one in general, you go through grief at all, and you have this reoccurring theme, this reoccurring emotion that keeps making an appearance in your life, and it's called rage, anger, frustration. Um, and I feel like people just don't know how to deal with those emotions. They don't know what to, because society tells us we're not supposed to have them or they're bad or whatever. And therefore we keep stuffing them down, especially as women. And it's just so poignant that we need to like push it out there. And but in a healthy way.
Yeah.
So the program that I did was called Rage Responsibly, and I just somehow off the blank, uh, came up with this dang term, and I've loved it, and people have loved it, so that's, like, the whole program is, like, teaching people how to rage responsibly so that it doesn't spill over into their personal life and onto people that they don't intend for it to go, if that
Yeah.
makes sense.
It totally does. Well, I think one of the things we get to understand is that emotion is energy in motion. Like it is meant to move. And so many of us grow up, suppressing that emotion. It's like shaking a pop bottle and keeping the lid on and just constantly shaking it and shaking it and shaking it. And so I think I love that work of raging responsibly because emotion, the energy in motion needs a place to go.
It
And
does.
so often dis-ease is a body that's not in ease. It is that suppressed emotion or that repressed emotion or that shoving down or even in the personal development space, which I love personal development like you, I'm a little bit of a junkie. And I also think there is a misconception with like the positive psychology aspect of think happy thoughts and do the mindset work, and there's merit to not sitting in the suck forever and for training our brain to start looking for alternate paths. And simultaneously it's equally as important to lean in to the discomfort, to sit with the suck, to hold space for the duality, the polarity of life. There's dark and there's light. There's sadness and there's happiness. There is the polarity, and you cannot have one without the opposite. And so
Mhm.
I think it's so important for us to start looking at those shadows and start looking at those parts of ourselves that do feel a little bit messy, or they're processing things, and learn processes to not repress and to not suppress and to start to expose and to start to understand our triggers, understand our pain, and use it as like wisdom that carries wisdom in it when we've gone through something challenging, and we can look at it and see what it says
Mhm.
and befriend it and allow it to express itself, which is the exact opposite of suppression. And I feel like when people, if you ask pretty much anybody in life, like, what do you want out of life? They're going to tell you something to the effect of, I just want to be happy. And the thing about happiness is you can't have it without the equal and opposite. Why do so many of us forebode joy? We're in a joyful moment, but we push it away and immediately think of worst case scenario because we don't look at our shadow sides. We don't look at our pain. We don't look at our sorrow. We don't look at our grief. We don't learn to hold space for it. So then we don't know how to hold space even for the happy. And so I feel like all of this is part of the human experience, learning how to hold the vastness of our human experience, our human expressions, grief being one of them.
I
Yeah.
agree with that, like, "Preach it, sister, let's go, let's go." Like, that was, yes, because you can't appreciate the rainbow without the rain, like, you have to go through the storm to see the bright green at the end, everything just looks brighter after a big thunderstorm, and grief is no different. Grief is the thunderstorms of life, and
Yeah.
sometimes they're really major, and sometimes they're just small little blips, but every time afterward, there's something beautiful that happens if you're looking for it, like, if you're willing, as you said, to let it in. I love that, that's beautiful, and embracing the suck. Everyone has the suck in their life, and
Yeah. Looking at it, like sit with it for a minute. See what
acknowledging
it
it,
has to
like, first of
say.
all, just acknowledging that it's there, that it's your life isn't and you don't I had another podcast where we talked about, um, it was choosing happiness, but at the time, like, you still have to recognize when you're not in a state of happiness, and then what can you do to get back to that state of happiness,
Yeah.
um, and sitting with yourself and understanding yourself so that or learning anyway.
No, absolutely. I agree with that. And I think So happiness can feel a little like arbitrary, like this
Mm.
point of this line, like when I
Destination.
get happy, I'll be happy if. I'll be happy when. Wait, am I at happiness? I don't know if I'm happy. Am I happy? It's like I believe that there's like a vibrational scale to life, and like
Hmm.
we can all, it's like a ladder, you know? So sometimes we're in the ladder of we're feeling the feels and we feel raw and it feels messy and it feels hard. And we're feeling like the real human emotions, which what a gift is it to feel the human emotions in the first place. Like
Yeah.
what is a gift it is that we can actually feel. And
Right.
so sometimes we're on the ladder of grief, or there's a ladder of shame, or guilt, or sadness, or despair, or complacency, right? And then we can climb, like we can go up to gratitude and fulfillment and purpose and joy. And so I don't feel like we need to jump from, like, if we're in sadness, it's okay to not jump to happiness right now. Like,
Hmm.
it is okay that right now I don't really know what I need, but I'm willing to look at this and say, I'm missing someone that I love deeply. Oh my gosh, the amount that I'm feeling right now is equating to the amount that I loved this person. And so what a gift that was, that I got to love so deeply, because the alternate to that is to not have grief and to not have love, like
Hmm.
to not feel. And so there is again the equal and opposite, if we can look to see that there's polarity of everything. And so even in the deep sadness, there also gets to be gratitude too, you know? And I used to believe that you couldn't be in a space of gratitude and sadness at the same time, but I'm actually starting to feel a little bit differently. And this is a new perception for me. I was just telling my husband about it the other day, because I actually feel like the invitation for us gets to be to hold space for the vastness of it.
Hmm.
So in this moment, I'm feeling so much sadness and rawness and expression of grief. And simultaneously, I'm expressing instead of suppressing so much joy and gratitude and love and appreciation for the fact that I even got to love that hard. What a
Right.
gift it is that I got to love that hard. And so and then from there gets to come the wisdom nuggets. From there gets to come what you've done, where you turned your pain to purpose. You like you said, I was on a trajectory of doing this. Life handed me this, and I don't necessarily like the saying life, when life hands you lemons you make lemonade, but I get the idea of it. Like, you
Yes.
make something good out of something that doesn't feel so good at the time. But when you do that, you made a decision. Look, this is hard. I can do one of two things. I can go down a very destructive path because I don't know how to deal with this. And so I'm going to suppress it. I'm going to push it down. I'm going to repress it. I'm going to pretend it doesn't exist. I'm going to try to move on business as usual. Or I'm going to use this pain for purpose.
Hmm.
And then that's exactly what you did. This whole baby got birthed out of something that was once very traumatic. And so
Yeah.
I feel like we always have that invitation. It's not always easy. It's like sounds very easier said than done for
Right.
sure.
Yeah.
And I do think, and it might not be in this moment, but if we're at least aware that it's available, like faith, they could use faith as like the 4 minute mile, right? Everybody thought the 4 minute mile was impossible until
Right.
the 4 minute mile
Right.
happened. And then it's like, now we know it exists. Like now, so even if someone borrows your faith, I love your name.
Do it.
But the faith, your faith, that, hey, listen, I have evidence that someone turned something really messy into something really beautiful and they use their pain for purpose. Maybe, just maybe, that's available for me too. And even if we just start there, like there is a
Yeah.
great starting point. So,
Yeah.
yeah,
Just having the thought that you can do something with it instead of just letting it control your life.
yeah,
It's still going to be there, whether you're happy or whether you're sad, whether you're wallowing in it or whether you're, talking about it and helping someone else with it. It's still going to be there no matter what you choose to do.
yeah. And
Uh,
grief is weird. Like, it's just a weird thing. Like, real talk. Like 1 minute you're like, I'm totally fine. I can't even believe how fine I actually am because feel like I have my shit together right now and I'm doing so good at this. And 0 seconds later, you're snot bubbling on the bathroom floor because why do we choose bathrooms when we decide to snot bubble ugly cry? And we have
Right.
no shits together. And it's like realizing that ladder that I talked about, it can be within seconds where it's like, I'm good, I'm totally good. And one smell, one memory, one moment, and
Right.
it comes like a wave. And so I feel like the opportunity becomes to ride the wave. Ride the wave of happiness, ride the wave of sadness, ride the wave of anger, ride the wave. Like it's not going to stay. And it's so fascinating because I read this study and I don't want to mess it up, but there's something like if you allow an emotion to process, it takes something like 45 seconds to go all the way through you,
Really?
which is wild because how many times have you had one negative thought and allowed it a minute, a hour, a day, a week, like where we just perpetuate, we repress it, we try to suppress it, this doesn't exist. Well, we actually add more momentum to the ball. And then suddenly, like this whole thing is carrying us. We're in anxiety or we're in depression or we're in this juju. And if we would have allowed it to do its thing and sit with it and lean into it and lean into it and lean into it and allow it to work its magic and breathe through it or tap through it, do EFT tapping or do something, let it say what it needs to say, 45 seconds or somewhere around that, it goes. It
Yeah.
goes if we allow. But what happens is what we resist persists. And so we resist, we add momentum,
And our
it
brain
bubbles up,
takes over and just snowballs it.
snowballs. And before we know, we're in a ball. And
Hmm.
so what's really cool is like I love your work because when we have tools and we have resources and we have the ability to empower ourselves to say, okay, like I know how this thing works. This
Yes.
wants to just blah, and I've done it before, and I know it could take me out again. But I'm in this moment, I'm gonna choose this. In this moment, I'm gonna choose this. And
Right.
when you have this toolkit where you're like, okay, in this moment, I'm going to tap through it. In this moment, I'm going to breathe through it. In this moment, I'm going to be angry through it. Like allow the emotions to work their magic. Your body has all the medicine that it needs within it. It has everything mind, body, spirit. You have every single thing you need within you if you know how to use it to get through any challenge that you're in.
I love that because it's so true. A lot of times we don't trust ourselves, don't trust our mindset, don't trust that we know, don't trust the circumstances and situations, and just don't believe in ourselves enough. And, for whatever reason, like there's a multitude of reasons why we don't. And so therefore we look for outside either validation or numbness or um, distraction to take away from what it is we're actually going through.
Yeah.
Then we create this pathway that, okay, this is hard. I don't trust myself to go through it. Therefore, I'm going to do XYZ to distract, numb, whatever it is, to not deal with it.
Yeah.
But
I
it's
want a
okay if we
disclaimer
will.
too.
Yeah.
Yes. I want a disclaimer too that it's an and. I believe it's an and because, I see the power of mentorship, of therapy,
Mhm.
of going to the doctor and doing whatever you need to do to feel better. Like I believe it's an and. But I love what you're saying because it's an and, meaning you also get to empower yourself
Yeah.
to get through the hard. You can trust yourself. And I know for a fact, been there, done that. I know that there are times when you are white knuckling your way through life and you do not believe in yourself and your ability to get through it. You feel lost. You feel like you're driving through the fog and there's no end to it. It's just going to stay foggy for the rest of your whole freaking life. I know how that feels.
Yes.
And I know for a fact also that you can. And I know
Yeah.
for a fact that you are stronger than you think. You have more in you than you think. You can do more than you think. You have more power than you've ever allowed yourself to find. And I do believe that more often than not, it's from the shit storms that
Yeah.
you find it. Like, very rarely do people go, my life's rainbows and butterflies, and then it just became more rainbows and butterflies, and then more. Like, most of the time, it was like, I was on my knees.
Mm-hmm.
I did not know how to get up. Holy shit, I found this power inside of me that I did not know existed. I don't know why, but I think so often it takes that contrast. And it brings tears to my eyes because I've worked with so many people through the years that I mean, I've had the calls when they were like, I don't think I can do it. And it's like, I promise you can. I know you feel that way right now, but I promise you can. I'm sure
Mm-hmm.
of it. Yeah.
Yeah, it definitely I think a lot of times too, people don't understand like when they're in the shit storm.
Yeah.
It a lot of times to get themselves out of the shit storm or to make it through the shit storm, it's
Yes.
just literally they don't realize that they're doing what they need to do by just putting one foot in front of the other and just doing something different than what they did before.
Yeah.
Uh, and then all of a sudden it's just almost like your body knows a way out as long as you just take that step and just move through it. And
Yeah.
like and trust it's not even necessarily trusting yourself at that point, it's just doing something
Yeah.
different.
So there's a great resource that I love for this, and it's by Dr. Joe Dispenza, and it's Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself. And, so often we don't realize that we're basically 95% default settings, meaning
Yes.
we wake up, we do the things, we do the same things we did yesterday. We do this, we're going to do the same thing tomorrow. We take our same foot, comes out of the bed. We brush our teeth with the same hand. We make our coffee the same way. We do the things like we're literally running our life on autopilot. And so I love what you were just saying, Faith, because one action of awareness where you're like, you know what? I know usually I wake up and I don't have any appreciation and I'm thinking the same thoughts that I was thinking before I went to bed last night, which were also bad thoughts. And then I woke up and I had the same bad thoughts because they were running in my subconscious mind the whole night time I was sleeping. Now I'm in the same pissed off mood I was in yesterday and I'm just going to repeat it and I'll do it again tomorrow. Instead of
Mhm.
doing that, you could just go, today, I'm going to start my day with gratitude. And it might be the pillowcase. It might be the person laying next to you. It might be the thought of a sweet coffee in the morning. It might be your dogs. It might be, but I'm going to do something different. I'm
Mhm.
going to be grateful today. It's what I'm going to do. And what I find a lot of times is people are like, I don't even feel gratitude. And I'm like, good, do it again tomorrow. They're like, I
Right.
don't feel gratitude. I don't know what it feels like to feel gratitude. I've been so hurting for so long. I don't know what gratitude feels like. And I say, good, do it again tomorrow. Because what's going to happen is we retrain our brain one of two ways. One is through spaced repetition, one is through emotional impact. If we do that spaced repetition of gratitude, and then the next day gratitude, and then the next day gratitude, we're no longer the person who went to bed angry and woke up angry every day. We've changed, we've broken the habit of being ourselves. And then we do one thing different. Maybe we walk down the steps with our left foot instead of our right foot.
Yeah.
Awareness. I'm not the same person I was yesterday because my person that's been the last 20 years stepped down the step with her right foot. And today I'm stepping down the steps with my left foot first. I'm breaking the habit of being myself. And
Yeah.
each time my foot hits the ground, the whole way down the steps, I'm going to say thank, and I'm going to say you, and I'm going to say thank, and I'm going to say you, and I'm going to say thank, and I'm going to say you. It's dorky things like this. It is so
Yeah.
dorky, but it's those little breaks of the perpetualness of the default setting, the old us that was in this stuck in the suck. And when we do that over and over, little things like that all day long, and we stack them and they compound over time, we look back and we don't recognize the version of us that couldn't get out of bed anymore. We're not
Mhm.
her. And so I really encourage people to just pick something so little that
Yeah.
it doesn't even feel like you're not even tricking your brain into like, I need to be this new version of myself. Like you, Faith, you've reinvented yourself from the version. I've reinvented myself from the version of me that couldn't get out of bed, right? But if you said, I'm going to reinvent myself and I'm going to start a podcast and I'm going to start a, and I'm going to write 3 books and I'm going to do like the version of you that like didn't know, like was numb, the version of you that was like, I don't know how to deal with this pain, it would have psyched it out. But if
Oh
you can
yeah.
do one thing and one thing and one thing and one thing and one thing over and over and over again, you literally become a different version. Your physiology changes, your nervous system calibrates. When you've gone through pain, your nervous system is it's like
Right.
freaked out. You're waiting for the next shoe to drop. You are just in a big ball of freak out. But when you start doing these tiny things, your life begins to shift. As within, so without. It's for real. As
Hmm.
your within changes, your without changes, and it just continues to get better.
I love that. That is beautiful. Now I love everything that you've said. 100%. Now, how do you translate this into, I'm going to go back to what we talked about at the very, very beginning. Like, how do you do this with children? Like, how do you set your children up to handle grief better, to handle those emotions better, to be able to, because you come from first grade, you used to teach first grade. So how do you get them to like express their emotions in a healthy, viable manner that is, you can understand what they're saying and doing and meaning,
Yeah.
putting meaning
I
with
mean,
that.
first and foremost, I feel like if there's any person listening to this today or whenever this airs, they've literally Googled a release podcast. And so they're obviously on the
Mm,
bandwagon. They're on the energy, the vibration field of grief and releasing.
yeah.
And the
Yes.
best thing you can do is to be it if you want to see it. Anything in life. If you want
Yeah.
gratitude, you give gratitude. If you want love, you be loving. If you want kindness, you be kind. If you want to people to express themselves around you, you express things around them. That is the best way. If you want vulnerability, you be vulnerable. And so one is to be it to see it. So you're already doing it if you're listening to this podcast today. Ching ching, like trophy or winning, yay. So that's the first one. That's for parents, that's for teachers, that's for all of us. And along those same lines, like if you squeeze an orange, the only thing you're going to get out is orange juice.
Mm,
So always being aware too of what's on the inside of you. Because whatever is within is what will come out. And that's why I love your rage responsibly thing. If you squeeze the rage comes out. But if you squeeze the rage responsibly and the rage comes out, there's no longer rage within. And so there will no longer be rage without. And so I think too is really sit back and ask yourself, what is in my orange? Like if the world squeezed me right now, what would come out? And that's just an invitation to say, oh, good, you get to feel it to heal it. This is awesome. Feel it to heal it. And so feel the feels, and then you can teach the littles in your life to do the same. Another thing I encourage parents to do is get like a big glass jar. I have a huge one that I should have brought, but a big glass jar and put it on your countertop and get different color pom poms. And each pom pom represents a different emotion. So the thing about why a lot of us are retraining our brains for understanding emotional intelligence or emotional regulation is just that our families couldn't give away what they didn't have. Our teachers
right.
couldn't give away what they didn't have. It wasn't like there was a college class, which I'd love to change, but there wasn't a college class that's like dealing with grief 101 and all the
Right.
teachers learned it, right? And then
Right.
before a parent had a kid, it was like, okay, take your grief 101 class. Like that doesn't happen. And so the
Gosh, but what if it did?
what if it did?
Ah,
I know.
room for improvement here.
It's called life's work here. But
Right.
so the thing about for parents to teach their kids or teachers to teach their kids is that there are no bad feelings. Like we were raised, I remember my dad being like, shake it off, tiger, or
Yeah.
he could not give away what he didn't have. I'm not mad at him. He could
Mhm.
not give me something he did not have. And so, if we can learn that all feelings are welcome, anger is just as welcome as happiness. Sadness is just as welcome as joy. Like every feeling, fear, it's welcome. It has things to say. It's telling you something really
Yeah.
cool. And so I encourage parents to get a jar, and each ball, each pom pom ball is a different feeling. And so often we think we are our feelings. We are not our feelings. We
No.
are the human container that is experiencing many feelings in a day. Like feelings come and go. It's not a part of who we are. And so they put a ball in today. I felt angry a little bit when this happened, and they put a red ball in. And I felt pretty happy when this happened. And also, I felt a little sad when I thought about this. And then the kids do it. I felt happy when this happened. Oh, I did feel a little sad when this happened. I felt kind of jealous today on the playground, and they put like an orange ball in. And so, if we can model that, like, we are not sadness, we are not anger, our identity is so much, and we'll do a whole talk on identity another day. But as far as feelings, our identity is not how we are feeling or how we're experiencing the human condition. Those are just feelings, and all of us have many of them in a daytime. And so when we normalize that, then a child doesn't judge. Oh, I felt sad. I need to shake it off, Tiger. Okay, okay, I feel sad. That compounds over time. I felt jealous today. Okay, I can't tell anybody because mommy said jealousy is bad and I don't want to be jealous. I don't, nobody's ever talked about jealousy. I don't know what it feels like, but okay, I'm not. Oh my gosh, my goldfish died. They told me to shake it off and I'm so sad. I'm so sad. I can't be sad. I can't be sad. Well, then what happens when the next sadness happens? What happens when now, if we don't have understanding, our human will always look to create its own meaning. We will
Yeah.
always want to create a meaning when we don't have understanding.
Mhm.
Why? Because we want to understand. And so if we can help create meanings that are healthy, oh, what's the meaning behind this? Nothing. You're a human. Now, if you're feeling jealous, let's do this activity where we do admiration as inspiration and we pick all the people that we admire and realize that the light inside of them is also within us. And we can do a whole activity on that. If we're feeling sad, let's go to our sadness treasure chest. Let's figure out all the ways that we want to choose to process this sadness. Do we want to tap? Do we want to breathe? Do we want to journal? Do we want to stomp? And when we know that, like, okay, this is an feelings are wanting to express again emotion, energy, and motion. They just want to move. Since energy, we're all energy, and energy is meant to move. It's not meant to stay in a pop bottle. And then kids just know it's normal. I'm normal for having human feels. I'm feeling sad because I'm normal. I'm feeling happy because I'm normal. I'm feeling mad because I'm normal, and all of my feelings are welcome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that because you're right. So many times, kids fall down, you're like, you don't want them to cry about it, or you want them to be, I don't even know, like tougher or, oh my gosh, it's just a scratch. Like, why are they crying over a little teeny scratch? Well, they're crying over the teeny scratch just because they fell, they hurt their feelings, all the things. And they're just, they're feeling.
Inherently expressing. So think about this, Faith. I
Yeah.
was thinking about this the other day because we went to dinner and the dance floor was like packed full of kids and they were expressing. That's the same. They were dancing
Yeah.
and they were having fun. All the adults are like sitting suppressed because we've all been conditioned to just be like adults. But same thing with like you see a grown up fall and they're like shake it off, like they just get up and they like pretend nothing happened. You see a kid fall, what do? They express. It's
Yeah.
inherent. What did you do before you became the adult that had all their shit together and their poop in a scoop? And then you're like, oh, I'm fine. I can't express it. I hurt my leg, but I'm gonna pretend that it doesn't hurt right now. Expression is natural. It is inherent.
Mhm.
And when we are young, like a baby cries. Why? Because it's telling you it needs something. It's expressing. A toddler cries. A toddler laughs. A toddler dances. Why? Because expression is inherent. An adult pretends they have all their poop in a scoop and feels like they can't feel their feels. They can't get out of bed. We have to hold it all together. Can't let it cry. They can't know I'm sad. They
Yeah.
can't know I'm angry. And it's like, but why? Because and also like have we ever, like you were saying, like shake it off. And then you're like, but why? Like, why do we do what we do? And why don't we question why we do what we do? Like, why is this not a thing that we're questioning? I don't know if you've ever heard the story of the roast, but
Go
there's a
ahead, tell it.
okay, really fast. There's a lady who had a roast and she chopped both ends off of the
Yeah.
roast. And then have you heard this? No?
I have, but tell it for the
Okay.
people that might not have.
Okay. So she chopped the both ends off the roast, all this meat, and put it in her big old pot. And then the daughter's like, Mom, why do you chop up both ends off the roast? And she's like, I don't know. My mom did it. So they go to Mom. Why do you chop both ends off the roast? She's like, I don't know. I've never really thought about it because my mom did it. So they go to Grandma. Why do you chop both ends off the roast? And she's like, I don't know. Why do you? I don't know. Let me ask. My mom did it. And so they go to like great grandma and they're like, why didn't you chop both ends off the roast? She's like, oh, because we only had a pot this big and that's the only way it would fit. And so it's
Right.
like generationally, all this meat
Yeah.
was wasted and no one ever questioned why we do what we do. So the invitation here is like, if you're doing things because it's how you want to parent, or it's how you want to teach, or it's how you want to be, how you want to live, how you want to love, how you want to lead, cool. Keep doing that. But if there are things that you're like, why do I do? Like, why do I say shake it off, tiger? Like, why do I not let them express their emotions? Oh, bingo. I was never allowed to express my emotions. Guess what? In a holy instant, everything can change. In this
Yeah.
moment of awareness, if you're like, I don't want to do that anymore. And the next time you're feeling sad, you cry in front of your kid. And then the next time they cry, you let them talk, right?
Ooh, yes.
Yeah. It changes like that. Yeah.
There was a time, so most of the people that are listening to this podcast know my story. I lost my 19-year-old stepdaughter in 2016, and then I lost my 4-year-old granddaughter in 2021. And my journey for this grief stuff began after I lost my granddaughter because I didn't feel validated to be able to share it after I lost my stepdaughter. Um, anyway, fast forward, I'm now into this grief stuff. I'm now learning how to express my own emotions. And not that my parents ever told me I couldn't express my emotions. I just somewhere along the line picked up that, oh, you need to be tough. You need to be strong. You can't show emotions because that's a sign of weakness, blah, 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 blah. And I remember after my granddaughter passed, uh, and it was probably several months, probably 6 months, maybe a year. And all of a sudden I was feeling and I started crying. And my kids are like, Mom's broken.
Yeah.
They have no idea, because I'm not normally a big crier. And like I've shared before on this podcast, I have cried more, I think, on this podcast than my entire life. I just apparently that is my quest in life is to express my emotions now. And so there's some days I'm better at it than others, but
Yeah.
I'm really trying.
Yeah.
But I also want to make it so that my kids and grandkids are able to express their emotions, but not necessarily to go crazy and wild with their emotions, but to understand them, to understand that they have them, that they are absolutely perfectly normal, and how to process through them. And so they're not stuck in one or the other or pushing them down or whatever it is, that we as adults feel that we need to do because these things called emotions are like overtaking our world.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's insane.
Yeah, I mean, it's the coolest when you start to realize, we are the way we are because of the way that we were taught, right? And
Right.
so even just the power, like, I'm not a crier. I remember saying something similar to that. It wasn't about crying, but I said I'm a people pleaser to my mentor. I was like, I'm a people pleaser by nature. And he's like, false. You're a people pleaser by programming. And I'm like,
Yes.
ooh, that's a point because
Mhm.
when we weren't born people pleasers. We weren't born
No.
non-criers. We weren't born any of these things. It's just that it became conditioned. And so if it can be conditioned in, it can be conditioned out.
Out.
And what's really cool is the science behind it. Like the lid of our subconscious mind is open, wide open until around age 7. And so that means it does not know how to reject. It only knows how to accept. When there's so
Mm,
much brain science behind this, which is wild. But again, going back to the understanding. So picture like your subconscious mind is wide open and it's just accepting every single thing.
mm,
And so if it doesn't have meaning, it will create its own meaning from what went in. So let's say a child gets left out on the playground. Okay, that's in there. It doesn't know how to reject and say, no, I actually am really, everybody likes me. It just happened to be that they were picking, like, we can't rationalize it. It just accepts, 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 accepts. And then around age 7, the lid goes on. And on meaning all of the paradigms and the programming that is in there becomes our mirror for life. We will always
mm.
validate what we believe to be true. Our brain is created to seek truth and validate what our beliefs are. And so, if we don't analyze those beliefs, and then also, this is why it's so cool that you're modeling this for your grandkids or your family. Like, if anybody has a child under age 7, 8 in their life, and they're starting to model this, they're starting to teach understanding of emotions. And guess what happens when that lid of that subconscious mind goes on? These littles are going to grow up as adults who understand and validate themselves and their feelings. They aren't going to seek external validation for them. They're not going to try to create narratives or understanding around them. They're going to know who they are and what their feelings are and what grief is. They're going to know how to discipline their disappointments. They're going to know that they aren't broken for having feelings. And so I firmly believe that this is the work, this what you're doing is the work that will change the addiction statistics, the suicide statistics, the adversity statistics, because I really do believe that if we can raise humans who don't feel like they're broken because they're going through hard, I feel like that's where we create massive change.
Yes. And I would like to add to that. I think that if we show all people these, all people in our world, that their feelings are valid, but that no buts, that their feelings are valid and give them opportunity to express their emotions and begin that journey of understanding their emotions, understanding that they have them and there's a purpose for them and they're valid. But by also letting them, because we have our own journey, like we have to sit in our own emotions to understand our emotions, how we work with them, how we process them. And if you haven't done that for many, many years, like myself, um, if you haven't learned how like these emotions affect you or how you go through them or how they resonate with you or how they wreck you,
Yeah.
then, when it happens, it feels very uncomfortable. It feels very like, "Oh my god, what the hell did I just do?
Yeah.
What
Yeah.
is this? This is emo
Yeah.
I don't want these." But they're there
Yeah.
regardless of whether you want them or not. It doesn't matter.
It's so true. Well, and it really is wild. I've thought about this a lot of times because we go through life. I don't know if you feel the same way, Faith, but I'll use myself for an example.
Okay.
So my journey started in 2009 after my dad passed away and we lost a bunch of people in my family. And I had always felt like a leaf in the wind. Like if life blew me happy things, like it was always circumstantial. If life was wonderful, I'm happy. If life is hard, I'm not. Like
Yeah.
and then I tried to control the leaf. Like, how do I have control over this leaf blowing in the wind? Because I don't want to feel sad because I don't want to feel it. And how can I make all of my external circumstances make it be so
Happy.
I don't feel sad? Right.
Yep.
And so, that was like part of my journey. There was, after my dad passed, I remember 72 hours where I was like, they're like, are you going to get out of bed? Like, I got out of bed to do the funeral thing, like the stuff, but it was like, I don't know how to do life. I like, blah. And so like that was the catalyst for this whole, literally it started, Faith, with me Googling what do you do when life falls apart? Like that's where I was.
Okay.
What do you do when life falls apart? And I found this whole world. And so this is why I'm so passionate about this work, because I was sleepwalking through life. I did not know personal development existed. I mean, I was in
Mm,
positive
yeah.
psychology. Like I always was like had the belief like when I was teaching like think happy thoughts and the power of self-belief, but I didn't know like this world existed. And so I remember like finding all these people who had these stories of overcoming adversity and like man's search of meaning with Viktor Frankl and like all of these people who had gone through like these crazy hard things and they overcame it. And I was like, okay, so the common denominator is not that they always had it together. The common denominator was they rose from the hard and
Yeah.
they use certain things that help them get out of the mud. And then you realize that like a diamond becomes a diamond from the pressure, a lotus grows out of muddy waters. Like there's so many things in life that like this gets to be the launch pad if we choose. And I
Yes.
remember feeling like that didn't even feel real to me. Like the idea that this could just be the beginning is like, what? Like my like how? My mom is on the kitchen floor. Like literally she was it was like life was so hard, but it gave
Hmm.
me hope. And so here's what my hope is that someone who, for whatever reason, they found your podcast because it was about grief and
Yeah.
it was about releasing. I hope that just today they get like a little injection like of hope because I do think from like that starting point, anything is possible. If you're like, what if this is just the beginning? Like, what if I can choose good from this? What if I can use my pain for purpose? What if, like, the rest of my life still can be the best of my life, even though it's going to look really different than, like, I think so often we have like we have an expectation hangover. Like I had
Mhm.
this vision of this life that my dad was going to walk me down the aisle. He's never going to do that now. I had the worst expectation hangover from so many things. I was going to hang out with my cousin and he's gone and like there were so many things but I do think if you can just start by starting and just be open to the idea that what if that there's hope on the other side of this, I think life is just cool that way because it'll align you with people, it'll align you with circumstances, it'll open up doors. Truly, there's it sounds so cliche, but it'll open up doors where there once were only walls. Like the people will come, you'll go to the conference, you'll get an invitation, someone will invite you to the thing. It doesn't even make sense. An opportunity comes up, somebody asks you to speak. There's a way that you can use your pain for purpose. Someone else is going through something similar and you're one step ahead and you become their survival guide. Like it's so wild how you get become a magnet if you have hope.
Yeah. I agree with that, like, 100%. I think you find opportunities when you're looking for them, and you find what you're looking for. If you're looking for negativity, you'll find it. If you're looking for positivity, you'll find it. If
Yeah.
you're looking for a change in your life, you'll find it. If you're looking for the same thing over and over again, you'll find that too. And it just comes down to, custom curating what you're looking for,
Yeah.
uh,
And what
because
you seek
you
is
will
seeking
find
you.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What you seek is seeking you. And I really do believe that with every fiber of my being. And so um yeah, I think it's just really cool. I mean, most of the cool people that I know, they've been through some stuff, you know? It doesn't you don't you I don't know that I've ever met someone who was like, "So, I was born, it was rainbows and butterflies, then I did this in the end." Like, I think oh, this is where I was going to. We have to know, like, when I was talking about the leaf in the wind and death gripping life, one of the pieces of awareness that I have found is impertinence. Like, the only constant is change. And so,
Mm,
one of the things to remember as we're going through this life is like, it's gonna end. This is
yes.
might not be the most hopeful conversation we're ever gonna have here, but none of us are getting out of this thing alive.
Oh,
Like, we
yes.
are born, the only constant is change, there's impertinence, and so, you know, we go through these caterpillar butterfly, like you were in a baby body, then you were in a toddler body, then you were in a kid body, then you were in a teenage body, and then you were in an adult body, and then we're going to have old hair bodies, and then we're going to, if we're like, if for as long as, and it'll end at some point in this, we don't know how long the dash is. And so I think when we can realize that, like, that everything in life is supposed to change. When I was talking about that expectation hangover, it was like, this is not the way it was supposed to be. And I feel robbed and I feel gypped and I was so in a victim, so in a suffering, so in a hurting space that I
Yeah.
was, it's not fair. It's not fair. And then I lost my 29-year-old cousin right after my dad. It's like, that's not fair. He was supposed to get married and be an old man. And he was supposed to, like, in my perception. And so I think what can be a gift is when we stop trying to death grip life. And it's like, we have this moment right here, right now.
It's the
That
only
is
one we
it.
have.
The middle of that hourglass is legit the only thing we have. And so I feel like if we aren't living in the future and putting our anxiety on the future, or living in the past and putting our depression on the past, and like, and what it should be and what it needs to be and how we, like, if we can just, in this moment, like, I'm gonna accept this moment as it is, just in this moment for right now. And if in this moment I'm feeling sad, I'm gonna sit with that sadness in this moment. And in this moment, if I'm feeling joyful, I'm gonna sit with the joy in my heart in this moment. And if in this moment I'm feeling gratitude, I'm going to sit with that in this moment. And if in this moment a little anger is working its way through me, I'm going to sit with that too in this moment. And just appreciate life that way, knowing that it is going to change, and we don't know how that change is going to go. And hopefully, like, all of your dreams and everything you want to manifest in your whole life comes true. And if it doesn't, knowing you're going to be okay and you have the capacity to hold space for the allness of this human experience. And that's what we came here to do, to experience life. And with that comes the vastness.
Comes a lot, yes. Do you ever sit in your when you're in these emotions, these negative times in your life? Not, I don't even want to call them negative times, but like the downward times. So like the depression, the anger, the anxiety, all of the things. Do you ever just sit your in those feelings
Yeah.
and ask yourself why? Like, what's the catalyst for this emotion?
Oh, for sure. It's a
What's
messenger.
like even the happiness, like sitting in the happy, sitting in the
Yeah.
joyful, sitting, what's the catalyst for this emotion? Like, why am I feeling this?
Yeah, for
What are the
sure.
triggers? What are the all the things?
It's a message. It's feelings are only messengers. Maybe they're telling us, hey, this thought that you're thinking isn't in alignment with your highest good. Hey, this is telling you that you shared deep love and you're feeling the missing of it right now. It's feelings are only messengers. They're like, hey, we've got something to say. You're scared. Remember when you were 6 and you got left out on the playground? Remember it? Like, hey, remember the time you lost someone you really, hey, remember the time you got dumped? You thought you found the person and now you're jaded a little bit. Okay, hi, I'm telling you about it. Like, it's feelings are messengers. They have things to say. One of my favorite books is The Untethered Soul.
Mm,
Have you ever read The Untethered Soul? It's so
I have
good.
not.
It's a good one, but he talks about it as like thorns. Like, we all have life experience thorns in us.
Hmm.
And we're literally all walking around like, don't touch my thorns. Like, they're invisible. You can't see them, but like, don't talk to me about this and don't talk to me about this and don't talk about. And then someone in our life, usually the person we're married to or in a relationship with, they push it. And we're like, we don't want to address that. But the cool part about feelings or thorns is like, we have the opportunity at any point in time to look at them. You get triggered. Ah, ah, anger. Hey, hi, what do you have to say? Oh, remember how this brings up that feeling of your inadequacy? Remember how this brings up like the time when you felt like you weren't good at, oh, that's what you are. They are coming to say things. They're coming to give you a message. If we don't judge it, like, I don't want to feel this anger that I keep on feeling and I need to push it down. If we don't do that, it just comes to tell you something. It's usually an opportunity for healing or an opportunity for growth or an opportunity for alchemy and opportunity for transmutation of energy to turn it into something good. Maybe it turns into your purpose. But if we don't listen to it, we don't get the message. And so again, while we resist persist, so it'll keep coming up, but we always have an opportunity to say, oh, this is sadness. This is grief. What am I going to do with this? Maybe you
Yeah.
journal about it and that's it. And it just tells you its message. Maybe you reach out for support because you identify a part of you that's felt unhealed or not good enough for a while. Maybe you sign up for the class, maybe you go to the therapy, maybe you like it, but if you listen to it, it doesn't block the inherent natural goodness that is within you all the time. And I do want to say that because I do think when we go through hardships, we think we are those. Like, look at me,
Mhm.
look at who I've become. Like, I am a depressed person. And the truth is that it could not be further from the truth. You are divine. You are light. You are love. You are goodness. You were brought into this world like this. You will leave like this. But life creates blockages. When we go through hard things,
Right.
it just creates a resistance to that inherent knowingness, that inherent goodness. So just know that you aren't broken. You don't need fixing. It's none of that. It's just part of the human journey to go through hard times and you will get through it. And there are people like Faith and so many other people who are here to support you on your journey. But yeah.
I love that. You sound like you'd be a great coach. Do you do coaching?
Yeah. Yeah. It's my favorite thing in the world to do. So I have a program called C.A.P.E, so creating a powerful life experience. And so my dream is to get this to as many of our youth as possible, as early as possible. But C.A.P.E is also for adults, it's for teachers. We have a curriculum and consulting agency. So we have a lot of resources. So if you need anything, I have a bajillion free resources. Do not hesitate to reach out. I will be happy to support in any way.
Absolutely. Where can they find you then to get all of these resources? Drop
Sure.
it, girl. Drop the deets. Don't
So
be
it's
scarce.
You're adorable. It's cape-global.com. You can email us at info@cape-global.com. We have a free Facebook group. It's Cape C with dots. So it's an acronym C.A.P.E global. But or Angie Leitnaker. You can find me Leitnaker. It's phonetically a little weird. Um, but
This
yes,
is why I didn't try to pronounce it at the beginning because I would have butchered it.
yes. Thank you so much. But it's been really fun.
I have had a blast chatting with you. Thank you. I can't even talk. Thank you so much for being on the podcast. You shared a lot of great insights, like for the mentality, for helping with children, for all of the things. Thank you so much. I truly appreciate it.
Oh, I've loved it every minute. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
You're welcome. And I will see everyone else in the next episode and constantly be thinking about what Angie said earlier and what if you can change your circumstances, your life, your trajectory, all the things by making one conscious decision that's different than what you did yesterday or the moment before. So just remember, what if? Have a great day, and I will see you in the next podcast. Thank you so much for listening to this special episode of Release. All the links plus a few extras are posted in the show notes below. And if you think someone you know could benefit by listening to this episode, please share it with them. And as always, keep going, keep being, keep doing. You are amazing.